Good evening and welcome back to the Behind the Leazes Podcast, the official podcast for Newcastle United on the local TV network. When that intro comes on, we have a little bit of a dance. You can see everyone's little cameras. We can put a just like. Welcome back, everyone. We've got the whole gang on for the podcast today to talk about a game that I must say was rather appalling, and a game that was considered not a 6-pointer by Eddie Howe, but considered a 6-pointer by every single other Newcastle fan or any single other person linked to Newcastle ever. This was a massive game that we needed to win, and unfortunately it was not the case. It was a 1-1 draw at home to Watford, and it's just disappointing because once again we've taken the lead in a game, and once again we've dropped points. That is 21 points now we have dropped in the Premier League this season. We could have been miles up the table now if that wasn't the case, but you know, we're 19th now with Norwich's win. So, like I said, the whole gang here, we've got Andy, Rob, Ethan, and Adam. Gents, how are we all doing this evening?
Miserable, miserable, mate. To be honest, yeah. Well, it's a yet another week where we're going to be talking about Newcastle not getting a win. So I'm used to it, at least.
At the end of the previous podcast, we always say, let's hope we can get a win. Adam, you're very optimistic with your score predictions, and unfortunately, it's not come off again. I don't know how, but it's not happened. But we've got Adam here as well. How are you doing? You've had quite a busy day today.
Yeah, I just came back from Barnsley before watching Newcastle women's football team that can actually win. I watched them today. Got a nice 3-0 win. Newcastle, just the same old, isn't it? Another match at home where we can't win. It's just disgusting now. We can't even beat Watford at home. That was a terrible Watford team yesterday, and we still couldn't win. Bye-bye.
Rob. So, yeah, no problem. Rob here as well. You've had a couple of weeks off, but you're back on the podcast now. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, mate. As you say, just back again and just more doom and gloom. It's just so frustrating. I mean, as I say, I feel like the pressure gauge at Newcastle is just constantly flicking backwards and forwards. We bring in Trippier and everyone's excited. We lose against Cambridge and everyone's down in the dumps. We somehow managed to get a striker in a day before we play Watford and everyone's over the moon. And then we'll go and play like that. And it's just constantly up and down. It sends you mad.
It really does. I'm going loopy at the moment, I must say. We've got Andy here as well. Andy, I love the shirts that you've got in the background. Amiobi, England International, as we all remember.
Yeah, man. Bought it for my 23rd birthday. I wanted an Amiobi shirt, and it was the summer with the Euros was originally meant to be on. I thought, you know what, class. I really need to find out, though, the origin story of it. I want to know who in 2004 thought, you know what I really fancy on the back of my England shirt? Amiobi 23. I don't know if they just thought he was going to get the call up or what, but yeah, so that's that. But on yesterday, mate, it was just, I think everyone's just about as frustrated as they were coming out of the Cambridge game. I said last week that a draw wasn't going to be good enough, and it's not, and it's chucked us right in the bother. And we've now got to go against a very good Leeds side who put on a great performance against West Ham today.
Of course, we'll talk about Leeds and their performance against West Ham today, but let's focus on the Watford game just for now. It was a debut for Chris Wood, and you know, a long anticipated debut in terms of getting a new striker in. It's been quite a while since we've had a new striker in. He's here now. He played, didn't really make that much of an impact though, Andy.
No, well, it doesn't help he wasn't getting the service that we thought he was going to be getting. I mean, you've got Fraser and Trippier on the right-hand side, who are both known for being great crossers of the ball. And on the left-hand side, you've got Dummett and Maximin, which seemed a little bit of a dysfunctional duo at times, and I think everyone had the same frustrations with St. Maximin yesterday. I know Ethan was getting on us for being a bit like Souness and Pogba with the relationship I have with Alan St. Maximin at the minute. But I'm going to have to go again, mate. I think had he not scored that goal, he'd have probably been known for having the worst performance on the pitch. He wasn't good. He was trying everything to try and take on people rather than get the ball in the box to Chris Wood, who's known for being one of the best aerial threats in the Premier League. It was just frustrating. I can't imagine how frustrated Chris would have been to have his debut hampered by a greedy, selfish performance from St. Maximin. Grateful he scored, but apart from that, I thought his performance was absolutely dire.
Of course, it is. It's frustrating, of course, looking at the quality that he has, and he doesn't use the quality maybe to his advantage at times, likes to dribble a lot. We had the chances as well, of course. We did score the goal, but only one shot on target, which was the goal. Some might call it clinical, others might call it poor finish anyways. Joe Linton had a fair few chances. I remember there was one that hit the crossbar at one point. Rob, we had the chances. How didn't we win the game?
It's just, it's just not working. It's not quite there. And all we're all praying for is that we might see 2 or 3 more signings this January, and that they can help the team click. I mean, you mentioned it there about bringing in, Chris Wood, and we're not even giving him crossing the ball in for him. Like, that was the whole point of putting him in there. I think I do agree with Andy. I think St. Max has definitely been off the boil, but when you've got a player who can do what he does and score a goal like that, we just can't afford to leave him out either, for me. So I would say we've got to start looking at just try and change the way we're playing. I mean, you've got players like Trippier, as you mentioned. I mean, I think Matt Ritchie's a great crosser of the ball. Maybe stick him on the other wing and just say, look, lads, just keep crossing it in. Maybe try and find St. Max in a more number 10 rather on a wing. But you're right, we had chances. I mean, again, if that Joe Linton goal had gone in and would scored, then who knows? Maybe 1 or 2 more would have followed. But again, I've seen the stats of I think we've lost 21 points this season from winning positions, which is just outrageous. Again, we switch off for 2 seconds and they've scored, and we've lost all those points again. Defensively, we were poor. It's just a good job we were playing Watford, who are just as bad as we are, to be honest. I think if we played anyone better, we probably would have got stuffed.
And that goal did come, it was about 87 minutes into the game, so we had the lead for a good 20 minutes or so, and I don't know, everything just felt like it was all the wrong time. The substitutions felt like it was the wrong time. Players not really switching on in the game. Then that cross came in, and I think, Rob, you said it was Trippier's man, actually, who ended up scoring the goal.
I believe so, yeah.
But it was a really good cross, though, with that being said. But another game where we haven't been able to hold on to the lead, Ethan. It really is frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, it is really frustrating. I'm not convinced by the manager yet. It must be said. I want to be all Eddie Howe's black and white army bouncing kind of thing, but I'm not convinced yet. I'm not saying it's his fault, by the way. This group of players it's not very good, to be honest with you. I don't really know how to analyze it. Let's just be simple. They're not that good. And the problem I feel, Liam, at the minute is where we need to address something. Okay, we needed a centre forward because we saw against Cambridge the other day. Without Wilson, we had no real threat. But the problem at the minute remains the centre halves. We should have had one in by now. It's frustrating that we haven't. I know we've moved quite swiftly, bringing in Trippier and Wood, but the centre half's the absolute priority. And I feel at the minute the centre of the pitch of Lascelles, Share, and then ahead of them, okay, Joe Linton's doing well, but Longstaff and Shelby, that like square, if you like, that part of the pitch, the middle of the pitch, the most important part of it, isn't protected. And you need someone in there to fix it. And I feel at the minute it's very open the way we're playing when we've got no control in the middle of the park. And the manager needs to address that by either changing it, or I mean, the answer is getting in the transfers. And I really hope if he does get in those players, he gets it working. Otherwise, I think Eddie Howe's not going to last too long if he gets those players in the middle of the park and it doesn't work still.
I was going to go around the room and ask everyone, should we be asking questions about Eddie Howe just yet? But I think Ethan's answered that question there. Once again, it's frustrating. Adam, I'll give you a stat here about the midfield. Just one assist from the whole midfield this season. It's not good enough, is it?
Well, no, that just sums up the full midfield. There's not enough returns in the midfield. They don't control games. They don't hold possessions. They don't create any opportunities. You can't work with a team when the midfield's not good enough. Ethan was talking before about needing centre half. Someone was mentioned needing centre forwards. That just shows how bad the team is. We're asking for positions everywhere. I think we need centre midfielders first. We're not doing enough in games. It's as simple as that. It's so bad to watch. Where do we even begin with that midfield? I think Shelby's the best midfielder we have. And that's an out of prime Shelby when he's like, what is he in his 30s now? He's not the same Shelby he was at Swansea City. This is an older Shelby, and he's the best of the bunch. What does that say about the rest of the midfield? It's so bad. I think Eddie Howe does need to be asked questions. He kept Longstaff on that pitch for 90 minutes yesterday. He was awful all game long. He was making so many mistakes. It was always painful to watch. Just put him out his misery and get him off the pitch. He kept him on, and he kept making mistakes. Oh, and Lascelles was getting on to him now. Oh, my. Lascelles, he was just tragic yesterday. I couldn't believe how Sissoko missed that chance. He put it on a plate to him. It's the same players week after week. I'm sick of saying it now. I honestly think we need about 3 or 4 signs in for the Leeds game to have a chance against him. We're not going to make 4 signs this week, so I think against Leeds next week, it's going to be near impossible, especially how they play against West Ham today.
Do you think we could get that amount of players in before deadline day, though?
Oh, well, it has to be, really. I mean, if we don't get that many players in before the end of the deadline day, we're going to be going down this season. I honestly think we still need another 4 or 5 signs in.
Ethan, you shook your head there. You don't believe, even going on to deadline day as well, we can't get 5 extra players in?
I don't think they'll get them in, Liam, because I honestly believe potential players or whatever will be looking at that Watford game and they'll be going, if they win that, maybe I'd consider it. I'd be more inclined to go, look, they're temporarily out the relegation zone. They can make that climb, but after that, no, I honestly feel that might be it. I don't know. It's 1 win in 20. That was a massive game. We've had the must-win games this season were Burnley, Norwich, and Watford, and we've only won one of them. I don't think Liam players want to come. I don't think they will. I don't think you can get 4 or 5 in. And at the minute as well, you're getting held to ransom with the Botman thing. They know how desperate we are, and it's whether the board are going to give in and go, all right, take all this money, and then that affects you for the long run. It's just like you can get any kind of money from these guys if you take the mick out of them. No, I don't think they'll get the players in.
Not even for like a loan deal or anything like that? You just think that they wouldn't be bothered at all?
Okay, you could get some players on loan. I feel like if we're trying to say we want 4 or 5 players and we want 2 centre halves, a left back, a centre midfielder, a creative midfielder, you're not going to get all them in. Not all on loan. You've seen how difficult it's been so far. I mean, the Chris Wood deal, we just managed to wrap that up quickly because he had a release clause. Otherwise, you wouldn't have had a chance. And you probably paid a little bit too much for him as well. So, no, I don't think we'll get all the players in.
Were you not a fan of his debut then?
No, not especially. I don't think, to be fair to Chris Wood, we didn't give him the service. Chris Wood's a horrible player to play against. He's just he's I don't know how to use the terminology. I was going to use something house. He's a big lad in the box who just causes trouble. And the only reason he can cause trouble is if you give the ball to him. He's not going to create something himself. He had a few chances at the odd header where it was behind him, so you had to like lean back to get it across. If the service isn't there, Chris Wood isn't going to score.
And Andy, I'll come to you on this. I was reading what Burnley fans were saying about, when he was picked in the starting lineup against Watford. They were saying he's really going to struggle if he's not got a striking partner there. I don't think it really made a difference this game, did it?
Well, no, because like Ethan said, there was no service to him. And like I said, when you've got a winger being selfish, not getting the ball in, rather than trying to do 500 flip-flops to try and get past his man, and losing the ball quite a lot yesterday, it's not going to happen. To be honest, I would have hiked them off at half-time. I mean, that wouldn't have helped. He wouldn't have gotten the goal, but it was just frustrating knowing you've got someone like Chris Wood in the box and we're not getting the ball in there. Like Adam said, Sean Longstaff just... he's an old lad, and of course I want him to do well, but I think everyone's patience ran out yesterday. The performance just wasn't good enough, didn't look with the game. Played alongside Shelby, who was bone idle, lazy, didn't look interested. There's a couple of chances Watford had where Shelby should have been collecting the ball on the edge of the box and he just wasn't there. He was halfway up the pitch. It's just, it's so simple. It just... our tactic should be just get the ball in the box because Chris Wood will win it and most likely score. And we just didn't. We did everything but do that, and it was just trying to pass the ball around. And then I lost count of how many times the ball went back to Dubravka. I think it's disgusting that me grandma suggested it should be like basketball, that as soon as you're in the opponent's half, you kind of pass backward. And honestly, I kind of wish that would come into play, but just for Newcastle, because I lose count how many times a game where you bottle an attack and it just goes back to Dubravka, and you hear the collective moan in the ground. And it's just, this has been a thing that's been adopted through the last 5 managers we've probably had. It's been a thing we've done for ages. We're known for it. It's horrible. Like, why do we just bottle attacks? If you don't think it's going to come to anything, at least just lump it in the box. You know, Chris Wood's there now. He can bring the ball down. We've all seen how brilliant Joe Linton can bring a ball down. He's fantastic. He's all of a sudden become one of the best players at the Prem of bringing a ball down from height. And it's just, it's so annoying because the potential is there for it to be a good side, not like a top half, like brilliant side, like a good, like lower table side that isn't in the relegation zone. But I don't think Leeds will be the starting point next week. Leeds play with far too much intensity for players like Shelby to deal with. I think Shelby will be ran all over in the centre of the park, and that's a massive worry. Like I said, Leeds played really well today, and if we play like we did yesterday against, let's be honest, a not very good Watford side, their performance was nothing special. We'll get sent home with 5 goals put in against us, I think, next weekend, if that's how we're going to go about business.
So I think it is really a case of old habits certainly do die hard, and we're going back to old ways. Even with the new manager, like you said, this has been adopted from previous managers before. I want to ask you as well, where is Matty Longstaff in all this? Is he being injured? Is he just not being included in the squad?
His loan deal was a bit ropey. I think that's been hampered with injuries, and I think he's just getting back into training with the first team squad. I saw him in the clip they had of Chris Wood's first day. He was talking to Chris Wood coming on the pitch. So he is training with the lads. Yeah, I mean, we can't do anything wrong by chucking him in. I don't think he's shown he can be box to box, and he's a bit quicker and more up for putting in graft. And I would certainly rather him in over Short at the minute. So yeah, why not get him involved? And if he's up to full fitness for Leeds, I'd probably chuck him straight in, start.
Sorry, can I just build on that? On the centre midfield crisis, if you like, I think having someone in there like Matty Longstaff, who's just going to work hard, cover that ground, be box to box, is so important. And when the board are going to be looking for a replacement centre midfield in this transfer window, I don't think you need to. There's some names I've been looking at where it's like £50 million for a centre mid. Do you remember getting someone like Mohamed Diarmi, who just worked so hard and tackled and broke up play? If you can just get a hard work and gutsy player like that, who's nothing special, but on the cheap, who's maybe at a lower Premier League team or whatever, who's just going to work his backside off, look for that is my message for looking for a new centre midfielder, or Matty Longstaff if you just want to look that short.
Well, Mikel Moreno went straight into my head when he
said hard work. Good point.
God, I miss him. I really, really do miss him. Rob, we'll move on to the topic of transfers now, because we are probably the most active club in the Premier League at the moment. You know, when we think centre mids, we haven't really been linked with many of them, have we?
No, and the ones that we have been linked with, again, Wijnaldum's obviously been spoken about, who I would happily take back. I mean, it's as I said, it's at the point where I'd probably take anyone, to be honest. And I also like obviously talking about transfers, and we definitely need to remain active. It'll be very interesting to see what the owners actually decide to do as well, because I think for a lot of Newcastle fans after that Watford game, like Ethan kind of mentioned, is that done for us now? Are we down? I mean, look at Watford are playing Burnley and Norwich in the next week. I mean, if they win the pair of them, then I would say that it very well is over for us, to be honest. And if that's the case, come a week of the January window left, will the owners decide to continue spending another 70-80 million to see all of that money and wages be paid in the Championship? So as much as I think the need to, as much as the need to spend to keep us up, and I'm hoping they will stick to that. And we've seen them spend so far. I think it also becomes a question for them later in the window, deadline day. Ramsey, we need a midfielder. Ramsey's over at Juventus, isn't he? Getting paid 400 grand a week, and they obviously want rid of him ASAP. Would our owners take the gamble and go, right, we'll pay 200 grand of that if it means we've got a player who might keep us up like that? It's at that point, and I could very well see a few, again, desperation signings coming through with a few days to go. But as I say, it's a big thing to spend all that money if it's all going to be coming out your ears in the Championship next season. So we'll have to wait and see.
I'm definitely expecting towards the end of the transfer window a lot of money flying about in that Newcastle office. Just looking now, a player that has been linked with us quite recently. It's not a centre mid, unfortunately. It's like a left-sided player, like a left back, left winger. Robin Gosens. So he plays for Atalanta at the moment. Very, very solid player. Is currently out with a hamstring injury, so he's not featured for Atalanta since September. So he's had quite a long spell out. Adam, I'll come to you on this one. Ethan, you were shaking your head there as well. But Adam, do you think that is a realistic and impossible signing for Newcastle? And if so, do you think he would be a good signing?
Well, what I've seen so far is that we've agreed terms of the player. We just haven't put a bid in for him yet. Yes, I do think it's realistic. The fact he hasn't played quite well, we don't know how he's going to be when he comes back from his injury. He's going to be the same player he once was. I don't know. Newcastle at this moment in time, we haven't really got much of a choice anymore. We've got to go for some players now. We've got to sign them up because, again, otherwise we're going to be panic buying that last week. It's going to be a bunch of dodgy signs that nobody wants. I think the owners have got no choice but to invest hard in this window. I mean, we've still got about half this season left to play, as crazy as it sounds. We've still got a lot of time to try and turn this around. New owners will get criticised massively if we don't spend this window. They came to do that. They've got to do it. There's no way of putting it. In terms of Gosens, I don't know. I've never seen him play before. From what I've heard, he's quite a versatile player. Like you said, you play all around the left-hand side. We need players that can play multiple positions because Newcastle, we're going to get more injuries. We're going to get more players that aren't playing well. We've got to have players that can play multiple positions because we've got football players starting according to playing their correct positions, never mind in our one. So it's going to be a nightmare for some of them, and we've got to get these players in. If we don't get these players in, see you later. Championship here will come.
Ethan, you were shaking your head there at the thought of Gosens signing. What was your reasoning for that? And then have we really been linked with any other players in this transfer window as of late?
Well, I think Gosens, I watched him in the Euros and he was amazing. He was brilliant, but I didn't know the fact until I just learned it, that he's been out since September. We need players who hit the ground running. You need, like, what we're planning for here. Like, just bring in someone now who can do the job. But yeah, to be honest, Liam, I guess we've not had a lot of players who have been looking at in that left back position. So, I mean, bringing Gosens, stick with it's good news that Paul Dummett's back, I guess. We've got some cover in that area. So yeah, maybe if it works out in a few weeks, but man, we just need players for now. That's why I'm worried. Just get them in now and please be fit so you can actually play. Otherwise, it's not going to impact the players on the pitch who are currently useless. So that's all I've got to say on that one.
Fair enough. Andy, Gosens, we were speaking before the podcast. Left back isn't really a position that we need, but I mean, you can't.
I mean, we need players all across the pitch, mate. If it was up to me, we'd have a full new 11. No, but how Newcastle United is it to be linked with Botman and Robin? It's just we
that was
are
awful.
just it was, mate. But we are just an absolute banter club. For me, the next signing I would want in, and I think it's a sign that you could get sorted in a matter of hours, Aaron Ramsey. Club wants to move, player wants to move. I think it would be a wise choice to at least bring him in on a loan deal, maybe with obligation to buy. Creative centre mid who carries of that Wales side in the Euros and would improve our squad tenfold straight away. Another one I've seen maybe fans asking for, not someone we've been really linked with, Seko Fofana from Lens. Great, powerful centre mid, someone that can control the centre of the park, which we are dying for. What we're crying for right now is the dynamic that we had under Rafa between Shelby and Diarmi. I didn't think that's something I would be crying for in 2022, but here we are. We like you said, we need someone that can control play in the centre of the park. I think we do need another striking option. We need 11 new signings. Really, we need a full new 11, but it's not going to happen. I think there's the potential that we maybe bring 4 more in, maybe two permanent, 2 loans. I think going into this week, Newcastle are going to be very active. I think the talks are meant to resign now with Diego Carlos, who I'm desperate to see come in. We showed yesterday that the centre halves aren't good enough. Ethan, you've hampered Shaw for weeks saying he can't play in a back 4. He showed yesterday he can't. Defence is massive focus, and for me, I would hope by the end of this month we'd have a totally new spine in place.
And I'm going to go around the room with this again. How many players do you guys actually think we can get in before the end of the transfer window? Rob, I'll come to you first.
I think maybe we might see 1 next week, and then maybe again, depending on what happens against Leeds, what happens with Watford playing Burnley and Norwich, possibly 2 more in the last 72 hours of the window. As I say, when the owners go, right, we're either doing this or we're not doing it, get the wallet out and just pay, as Andy said, pay Ramsey the 400 grand a week just to do it. Just as I say, like, I think in terms of actually going out and again, you know, like the Botman deal, like all these other deals, all these teams are desperately trying to milk as much money as they can get out of us right now. If we turned around with 48 hours to go and go, look, we're going to give you 35 million. Do you want it or not? I think some of these teams will turn around and go, okay, then. Like at the moment, they're just bartering with us because they want to get as much out as they can. I think, as I say, with 72 hours to go, some of them might turn around and go, okay, we'll take the 20 because they do want to sell them and they do want to offload them. So, yeah, I'm hopeful to maybe see 1 through the door next week. And then, as I say, who knows, maybe it could be 3 with a week to go if these teams start knocking on the door. But I think realistically, I would say 2 or 3. But again, we could do with 7.
20. Adam, what about yourself? You said we need 4 or 5 players in, but realistically, how many players do you think we can actually get in before the end of the window?
Well, so far, being 2 weeks in, we've made 2 signs. I actually still think we'll be able to get at least another 4 in. I'm not joking at all. I think, again, as Rob was saying before, last 72 hours, there's a lot of players that contracts end at the end of the season, 6-month contracts. If we offer money now, clubs will accept for some of these players. I don't know which players exactly. I don't know if they'll be any good. But Newcastle, we're going to make more signs. There's no doubt about it. The team is clearly struggling. It needs backup. And you owners know that. It's no secret. You've seen the league table this season. You've seen the performances this season. I think this week we'll make 2 signs on the Leeds match. I think Diego Carlos, it looks quite promising at the minute. Again, maybe things will fall apart. But we have offered him triple the wages what he's on at Sevilla. And I mean, he's going to be licking his lips at that one. He's going to obviously want to come. Our players, again, we'll see what happens in the next few days. But I still think we'll have 2 players in for Leeds. And then the final week of the transfer window, I think there'll be at least another 2 more. Hopefully more. We need more. That's the only way I can put it.
I think people underestimate the power of deadline day. Throw as much money as you want at these teams and they will sell. Ethan, you mentioned before how many you might think we could see, but realistically, you know, what would you expect before the end of the transfer window?
I think I would expect maybe 2 permanent deals and a loan. But it's a good point that you raise about the transfer deadline day. I mean, we've got all the power, don't we, in the sense of no one else has much money as Newcastle to spend in the window. So if there's someone who's going to make some last-minute signings, it should be us. Great points about the teams who have players who might be going out in contract at the end of the season and they're desperate to sell. I could see that as a possibility as well. And I guess in all the craziness of that and the how unpredictable it is, I don't know. I don't know what could happen on transfer deadline day. But yeah, I'd imagine in my head, Liam, I feel maybe a couple of permanent deals, that Diego Carlos or a permanent centre half, Ramsey on loan, and then maybe another fella in there as well.
Andy, as well, just before we take some questions from the comments, how many players do you expect to join Newcastle before the end of the transfer window?
Like I said before, I agree with Adam. I think there will be 4, hopefully 2 centre-halves and 2 centre-mids. That's what I would like. I think that's the area that certainly needs most improvement and needs attention to. Hopefully Diego Carlos. I think Botman could still be on the cards. Like Rob said, last-minute deal and coming to the closing of the window. I think Lille, they're not in a financially great place to turn down big bids. And like I said, Ramsey, I think would be a great one in a deal that could be sort of very quickly. But the other two, I don't know. I don't know. I think it would be maybe looking at 2, maybe 2 permanent, 2 loans, or three permanent with a loan. I think they'll certainly bring a loan signing in at some point. But talking of loans, our last loan player, Joe Willock, hasn't been what we thought he was going to be this season. I've seen a comment yesterday. Someone saying, "Is Joe Willock our new Kennedy?" Because he's just not impressed this season. Great in his first spell, not so great in his second. And I mean, for the fact that he wasn't getting played yesterday over Sean Longstaff, I think is saying quite a bit, because Sean Longstaff got hoisted off at half time in the Cambridge game, and then played exactly the same against Watford. So the centre of the park is the massive worry for me. If we can't start creating goals from midfield, from the centre of the park, either assisting or scoring, then for me, we're good as done.
We've had a couple of questions in the comments here, or a couple of statements either. So we've got one from Oliver just saying, Wood was a panic buy period. If Wilson was not injured, we wouldn't have signed him. He's bang average and slow. Gale has a scoring record, no worse than him. What do we think? So Rob, I'll come to you on this one here.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's a good signing. I will stand by that. Obviously, we've only seen him play once, and he barely got a chance to touch the ball because we never gave it to him. But I can see a bit of where he's coming from. I think had Wilson not been injured, we probably would have maybe spent a little longer in the window looking for a striker. But under the circumstances, it was either we buy Wood or we play Fraser in the false 9. So we had to buy someone. I think the fact that we took him from Burnley and, put a bit of a dagger in their back with that one as well, taking their striker. So again, it's too early to tell. And one thing with Chris Wood as well is that he knows the Premier League. We could have gone out and spent 10 million on someone from Europe somewhere and hoped it worked. I think it was a smart move bringing someone in who can, as Ethan has said, can hit the ground running. But yeah, I can kind of see it. I mean, in terms of the Gale one, I think he's well past it now, unfortunately. Playing it on his Xbox at home, as far as I'm aware.
Adam, would you expect to see Gale leaving this transfer window?
Yes, but I don't think we'll sell him, because I don't think we'll bring another striker in. So you can't keep him, really. He's not going to play, though. I mean, I don't even know what he is. He got COVID or something. I haven't seen the guy in the last month or something. I mean, he's just completely vanished off the face of the earth. Or like Rob said, he's on his Xbox or something. I don't know what Gale's been doing. I mean, you can't compare Chris Wood to Dwight Gale's record. I mean, Chris Wood's got double figures in the Premier League last 4 seasons. I mean, Gale, has he ever had double figures in the Premier League? I don't think he has. So Chris Wood was a smart signing. I don't think he was match fit, to be honest, yesterday. He only had 1 day at the training ground for Newcastle. He's had loads of knee problems this season with Burnley. I thought he was 100% fit. But again, there wasn't anything going towards him. He had so little of the ball. It was what it was. It was important we had to bring a striker for that game. In hindsight, we needed a striker. We brought one in just on the day. It didn't matter because the striker never touched the ball anyway. I think the Leeds match next week, this is his former club. I think he'll be much more involved in this game, especially how Leeds play. I think it'll be a very end-to-end game. I mean, I don't think it's going to go well for Newcastle, but I think we'll be end-to-end. Wood's important. I think he'll be a good player this season. And again, Burnley, if we're struggling to bring a striker, imagine how Burnley are feeling. They've got less money than us, a less desirable club as well. So, I mean, good luck getting the striker in. I mean, they're trying to get Andy Cowden on.
Yeah, they are actually. We'll move on, and we will talk about the next game coming up against Leeds away from home as well. So it's never a nice place to go to, Elland Road. Always very loud. But we've had a question just regarding Eddie Howe and Rafa Benitez, who has been sacked today by Everton. He's a free agent now. What do you guys reckon? Andy, you shaking your head there. Ethan, you sort of nodding your head a little bit.
Nah, Rafa's in the past, mate, and that's where we need to keep it. Rafa had good players at his disposal at Everton and showed he wasn't up to the task with them. I don't think it would do any good bringing in another new manager to the club right now. We've got Howe, and Howe we've got to trust. The last thing we need is another managerial shake-up. The players are only just getting used to how Howe's management style is. Yes, there's been 10 games, but we've got a lot of changes coming in the next couple of weeks with even more players hopefully coming through the door. It's going to shake up the team even more, which I think will be a good thing. But no, for me, Rafa is 5 steps back, not going forward for me.
And just moving on to talk about Leeds now. Of course, they played today, beat West Ham 3-2, I believe it was. You know, looking at the way that they've been playing this season, I know they've had some injury problems, Rob, but looking into they've just beat West Ham, a team who were challenging for Champions League earlier on this season. It does fill you with a little bit of worry now, and maybe a game that we thought could have been a bit of an easier win is now about 10 times harder.
Yeah, as you say, I mean, obviously the Norwich game was a funny one because we got a player sent off and we drew. We beat Burnley, and then I mean after that, the next team above us is Watford. And as I say, we just played them yesterday and we were useless. So you're asking yourself, who can we actually beat? And again, that's why the transfer window is so important. I do still think that there is something more for these players to give, and again, that's why the questions are being asked of Eddie Howe, because he's the manager and he's the man who's got to unlock them. Again, if the tactic needs to be give it to Trippier and hit the long ball to Chris Wood, if that's what it takes for us to finish 17th this season, then I would take it all day long. You know, Burnley's form has dropped in the last couple of weeks, losing a few games. I know they've had loads of postponements as well, but you know, they went through on a run where they drew a lot of games in a row. And it's because they were just tight at the back, just sit out, just do whatever. I think it's great that Eddie Howe wants to go out and try and win games, but at the same time, we can't defend. So, I mean, the Leeds game is going to be a perfect example, and that's what Leeds do best, is they don't defend. They just try and see how many goals they can score. I mean, if that's what they do against us, I think they'll probably score a handful because we can't score goals and we'll let goals in. So, yeah, I think it'll be a really tough one. I think it's obviously not a derby, but it's obviously the closest team to us. So I think the away sport will be fantastic at the game, but I think it's one they'll be smelling blood, to be honest. They know how bad we are, and they're going to see this as a big chance because I mean, they've now moved up to 15th after winning today. And another win could take them into the top 10. So they will be absolutely smelling blood when we go down there next weekend.
Adam, you're going to be at the game as per. You're having a bit of a wine and dine in this game, aren't you? You've booked hospitality, haven't you?
Oh, yes, I have booked hospitality. Yes, so that means I've spent a lot of money to watch potentially a Hammer win today. On Saturday evening. It's got to be tough. Good thing is unlimited wine because I'll be drinking a lot of it before the game begins. It's going to be a nightmare. We are going to be screwed in that game. Leeds, they got a point to prove. Yes, this is a team that's 15th in the table, but like Rob said, one win takes them into the top 10, so they're really not as bad as the table makes out to be. I mean, Leeds away has always been a hard game. Last season, lockdown, we lost 5-2 to them. And bear in mind, at that moment of time, we weren't actually too bad. We weren't good, but we weren't like this. It's going to be impossible. Like I said before, we had to bring a lot of signs for this game. I can't see us making more than 2 signs if 2 signs are all this week. So we've got to rely on pretty much the same squad as we did yesterday against Watford. They struggled against Watford at home. What chance they got against Leeds away? It's going to be so hard. We need a miracle. We need an absolute miracle to stand a chance against Leeds. I'm looking forward to it, yes, but it's going to be really hard.
Ethan, just coming to you now as well. What tactical changes do you think needs to be made by Eddie Howe to see if we can actually get a win here against Leeds?
Well, you know my opinion on tactical changes that need to be made, and I stand by it. We need to play 5 defenders. I know it's going backwards. It's backtracking. It's not positive. But the problem is with Eddie Howe at the minute is that he's playing the same formation. It's apparently more attractive stuff, I've been told, and it's more positive. But at the end of the day, like Rob said before, I don't care how they play. They need, as long as they can try and finish 17th, and to do that, in my opinion, you try and make yourself hard to beat. And I feel that the style of play at the minute is so open. I mean, against Watford the other day, Watford had an awful lot of chances in that second half. They could have won it. They could have absolutely won that game, and it wouldn't have surprised me because they just cut through Newcastle's midfield like a knife through butter. It's like what we need to do, in my opinion, Liam, is Leeds play like maniacs. They'll outrun you. The high tempo. We don't know how to deal with that. Like Adam said last time we played them at Elland Road, we conceded 5 for a reason. If we don't make ourselves compact, hard to beat, I mean, just don't lose this game. I mean, I know we've been talking about must wins, but just don't lose this one. We can't let Leeds make that extra jump. Otherwise, it's unreachable. So what you need to do this game, in my opinion, is make it as tight as you can at the back. Please get in a centre-half. And that's the only reason you're going to win that game. And I know we're going to make predictions later, but I honestly could see us easily shipping 4 or 5 goals. That's not an exaggeration. That's not being a pessimistic Newcastle fan for the sake of it. We could easily concede that number against a Leeds team who love making chances and a Newcastle team who don't know how to defend for Toffee.
Fair enough, mate. You've really given it there. Andy, I'll come to you next on this one. What do you think Leeds' biggest strengths are going into this game?
Well, the whole murder ball temper thing they have, the non-stop, they ran West Ham tenfold today, and that's a hard thing to do. That West Ham side's a really good unit this season. It's just worrying, isn't it? I don't think anyone's got enthusiasm going into it. And I completely agree with Ethan. I think playing a 5-back would be the best thing to do. I think I would really like to see a 5-2-1-2 maybe. Play Maxi up top with Chris Wood, so he's got someone with pace. He can maybe bring the ball down, and he's shown he can finish when he's in front of a goal, Maxi. So maybe have Chris Wood there to be able to bring the ball down and knock it on. I'd have Willock just behind them in that number 10 role because that's where he's scoring. That's where he's scoring the goals when he came last season. My middle 2, Joe Linton and either it's going to have to be Shelby or either the 2 long snaps because that's all we've got there at the minute. And then I think we need to reintroduce Kraft back into the side because I think when he's played better than Lascelles and Shaw. Fernandez, if he's fit, get him back in because he is our best centre-half. Shaw, for me, needs dropped after Saturday. Wasn't keeping up with the pace of the game. Didn't look interested. And quite frankly, I think he wants to move away from the club. Doesn't look about it anymore. And I'd maybe even, if Lewis is fit, Hush Dummett it back into one of the back 3. Because Dummett, for me, yesterday was the standout player. Dummett, for me, was Newcastle's best player. And he's only just came back. So maybe push him into there, and then Trippier has shown he can cross the ball. I mean, our corners look 10 times threatening than they have all season. They're beating the first man and actually getting in the mixer. So that for me, 5-back playing with the wing backs, I think is going to be the best way to go about this game against the Leeds side, who will run us 10 times over if not.
Sorry, just to comment on that as well. I think at the minute, in the game the other day, you could see how anxious the team is. They're so anxious at the minute. They so badly want to get results, and they just can't. They just panic. They sit back too defensively. I honestly feel if you put in another centre-half in there, like Paul Dummett or whatever, I honestly think that the players will be less anxious and they'll be able to play a style that they've been used to for so long. And they've still not fully transitioned into this Eddie Howe style of playing. I think it would really calm them down and it would make them less frantic if you just put in someone like Paul Dummett in that middle 3, because he's Mr. Reliable, I think, and the other 2 centre halves are useless. So if you have Paul Dummett alongside them, it'll try and reduce the deficit as much as possible, and definitely keep them more compact at least.
Sorry, me mic on mute there. Let's go around the room for a score prediction, and then we've got to celebrate a small anniversary as well. So we'll start with Andy for your score prediction.
If we play the same setup we played yesterday, in the Watford game, 3-1 Leeds. if we switch it up, maybe go with what me and Ethan said with a 5-back, 2-1 Newcastle.
2-1 Newcastle. I hear 2-1 Newcastle. That's all I want to hear. Rob, we'll come to you next.
I'll be even this. I feel like I'm being positive by saying this. I'll go 1-1 again. Like, we aren't going to keep a clean sheet. They are going to score a goal. So it honestly depends on how many we are going to score ourselves. Let's see another Maxi special, but I think I would take 1-1 now, to be honest. I'm really fearing for us in any game, to be honest. And as we say, Leeds are going to run us off the park. We gave Watford had about 18 shots at the weekend. I mean, Leeds are going to easily score 5 or 6 of them. As I say, we were lucky that Watford were as bad as we are. I think Leeds are a step above where we are now. So I'll go 1-1. And as I say, I would probably take the point from you now if you offered it.
Yeah, I think I'd be quite happy with a draw as well. Adam, what about yourself, pal?
I think Newcastle could turn things around. I think Diego Carlos or a big signing will be in for this game. Fingers crossed. But on a serious note, I actually think there's more pressure on Leeds in this game, because if they don't win, then that's a huge slap in the face of Leeds fans, really, because they should be destroying Newcastle on paper. They're at home. They just came off a West Ham win. I actually think the players were struggling that game. I think maybe it'll still be enough for Leeds, but I'm deluded, as some people might say. I want Newcastle United to win, so I will try and put anything in Newcastle United's favour. I think we'll win 3-1. Screw it, why not? I think... I just think Newcastle, we've got to pull our finger out somewhere. We've got to play well against someone. We can't play crap week in, week out. Someone's got to play well against. So, yeah, let's go for this one. 3-1 Newcastle, why not?
Why not? Hey, Adam, you're always the optimist. Ethan, what about yourself? A little score prediction for this Leeds game.
Well, I feel like we should have ended on Adam, because that would have been a positive note to end on. And to respond to the remark of, they can't play like this every week. They can. Trust me, they can play like this for the rest of the season, I think. I don't think Eddie Howe's going to listen to the 5 at the back stuff. It's not even on his mind at all. He won't do it. I think he should, but he won't. It's not his style of play. Newcastle will lose 4-0 in this match.
4-0. Wow, talk about optimism, eh? For Leeds... It's all right, don't worry. I'd probably say we're going to get beat 3-0 as well. It'll be another Harrison hat-trick or something like that. But look, lads, let's end the podcast on a bit of a more of a positive note. Today marks 100 days since the takeover went through. So Chris Waff and George Colgan spoke to sources at NUFC, and this is what the sort of main things come out that interview were. So there are interviews for CEOs happening at the moment. A sporting director or a director of football appointment will come within the next month. A complete refurb of the training ground is going to happen this summer. And finally, Rob, you'll like this one. 9 Bar is going to be renamed to Shearers.
Yes!
That's great.
So just going around the room, look at that. He's got the Shearer statue. How good is that, though? A bit of optimism. They know that they are firefighting. These past few months, they have been firefighting just to sort of get everything from that last ownership back and really make the club like a nice new club feel and a nice family club. It feels good, doesn't it, lads?
It does. As you say, I mean, we're still second bottom, and we've been second bottom since they got here. And again, on the pitch stuff is, as I say, as much as we are doom and gloom because we are playing badly, but we are still able to sit here and laugh about it together. And I think a big part of that is the fact that we are trying to fix it in the window. We are trying to do something about it. We do know that if we do unfortunately go down, at least we've got owners who are going to sit there and are going to try and fight for us to go back to the Prem. I mean, we could have been having this conversation with Mike Ashley still in charge, and I think this would be a much more somber podcast than we're trying to make it. So it's not good, but I think we all know that we've waited long enough, and hopefully in 5-10 years' time, as bad as it is now, it is going to get better. So yes, very happy the takeover went through.
God, just think, we might have been rock bottom if it weren't for Amanda and co. Andy, it's good, isn't it? Bit of optimism, eh?
Yeah, man. I mean, the training ground. Well, we should probably leave this for the training ground expert on the podcast. We'll leave this to Adam, but no, it's refreshing to hear that we're finally going to get it refurbed, and it's just we're so behind in terms of off the pitch stuff to the rest of the Premier League clubs. I mean, look at Leicester. I mean, I know they won the Prem, but they've been like Premier League. They were like struggling for Premier League status, like while we were like firmly there. And look at the training ground they've built. It's amazing. Meanwhile, we've had players taking ice baths and wheelie bins in kids' paddling pools. You know what I mean? We've just looked at an absolute joke of a club compared to the rest. So, yeah, fantastic for that. Great to see we're getting these like sporting director of football roles coming in, because God knows we've needed it. Preferably would have liked it before coming into the window, but we've been doing things old school. It's the players that are coming in are who Eddie Howe wants, rather than the way it's been in the past and what we've been used to of, we'll maybe sign him for 6 million. Maybe he might do something and we might be able to make profit on him, which was the ethics of and attitude of the Ashley era. So obviously massively thankful the takeover finally happened and we're starting to restore ourselves as a proper football club. And of course, everyone's wanted to see it, Nine Bar go back to being Shearer. So that's a great little tiny change, but a great one. Hopefully we'll see a lot more legends come back and have more ambassadorial roles as well.
Of course, I think that's the main thing that I want. A few ambassadors, get Shearer in there, Keegan, Ant Deck, go on, why not? Jimmy Nail and all if you want to. Ethan, transparency, optimism, it's not something we've had under Mike Ashley. How good does it feel now that we've got it under Amanda Staveley and co?
Oh, it's lovely. It's really nice. It gets that community feeling back. Oh, well, to be honest, for as long as I've been supporting Newcastle, I guess I've never really had that affiliation with the club in that community sense, and the ownership. Everything's come together. I've never had that before, so it's really nice. It's a lovely feeling. Talking about things like the training ground as well. It's bizarre because obviously as supporters we never go to the training ground unless you're Adam and you're there every other day. But it still restores that sense of pride, doesn't it? We want to have a football club that's for the community and that the players are treated well, and it's not embarrassing. You're not going to have shots like Andy said of players having ice baths in paddling pools anymore. It just feels good. And I think with the whole comparing it to Leicester City as well, I've looked at them enviously and I've just thought that's a proper football club and it's been ran really well, and they don't have the money that we do. But if we can put in place a similar infrastructure to what they've got, I think it just automatically should lead to success, because it's worked that way for them. And if that's the proof's in the pudding, if you organise your club in a well-structured way, get the right people in there, everyone who knows what they're doing, and everyone's working in harmony as a team, it can only be positive. And it's nice to see. And of course, the only big problem is at the minute the football team's not doing so well on the pitch. But outside of it, it can only go up if this season does eventually end in us going down.
And Adam, as well, just before we end the podcast, the players will surely see the optimism that the owners have. Could that emulate to different performances on the pitch?
Well, it doesn't matter how much you polish a turd, it's still going to be a turd. You can be optimistic all you want, but it's still not good football players. I think it will make them optimistic, but it's not going to make them any better, is it? But in terms of long-term prospects for the football club, the training ground, we all know, is a dump. It needs to be changed ASAP. It will get changed. You always want to be the best. The training ground will be one of the best in the world. In terms of all things, director of football will be great. Signings, that's what we've got to focus on at the minute. We can't keep going about these long-term projects. We've got to focus on the short-term goals for now and the long-term goals. That'll come in time, but my focus is staying up this season. I still think we've got a chance.
Keep the faith, lads. We'll be better next week. Look, we're going to call the podcast now. It's been an absolute pleasure, gents, once again. Keep the faith, everyone. This has been Behind the Leazes with Liam, Andy, Rob, Adam, and of course, Ethan. All the best, lads. See you later.
See you later.
Bye.